Yeah. Looking forward to that match. Yeah.
It took my mother getting humiliated right there on TV. It took her for me to see the light. But Valiant, told you I've seen the light, man. It takes a lot of guts, man, to slap a woman and then push her down. Well, right there in Louisville, Kentucky, that was my mother, man. And anybody can relate to that. You've got one mother, man, and that's all you've got. So I'm coming, and I'm coming for revenge. That's exactly right. I want to thank the superstar for saying he'd wrestle with me. But Valiant, told you it don't matter because you hadn't seen Tommy Wildfire Rich. You hadn't seen him get crazy, man. And that's what I'm telling you I'm going to do. Tuesday night in Louisville, Kentucky, Tommy Rich is coming to get crazy. And when I say crazy, Valiant, told you, I mean doing whatever I got to do. And that's what it's all about. You bad, man, coming out and shoving a woman down. Well, Valiant, I'm going to show you what shoving's all about. I hadn't got a hold of you yet. I hadn't really got mad, but I'm mad now, Valiant. I'm mad, man. Told y'all better be ready. Right there in Louisville, Kentucky, the people's going to see something they've never seen before in their life because I'm coming, and I don't care what I have to do, Valiant. Told you take it for what it's worth, any way you want, because this ain't no woman here, man. This ain't no woman you're pushing down or smacking, because I'm going to be fighting back. Tuesday night in Louisville, Kentucky, you better be ready, Valiant. You better be ready, Tojo, because I'm coming with everything I've got. And I've got a whole lot of settling to do with y'all right there in Louisville.
We'll be seeing it Tuesday.
From title belts to Hall of Fame, Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, pride. Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. In the ring or on the air, legends living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the mat they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Guys, kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again to Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. Tommy, we're back again, man.
Yes, sir. Hey, it's great to be back, man. You've been doing all right.
Man, I've been doing good. I know you had a big weekend last weekend. Let's talk a little bit about that right off the rip, man. How did it go last weekend working for Herb Simmons?
Oh, hey, big shout out to Herb and just all the folks up there. I flew into St. Louis. Of course, we was in Shawneetown, Illinois, and they had a big fair there. And they had a ring out on the runway or whatever you call that, where all the stuff is, and it rained real bad. So the fire department which was a fundraiser for them. And so anyway, they had a building beside the fire department, so they cleaned it out. And so we wrestled in there. We had a little over 200 people there, and the fair, they had the lights on, but the fair wasn't even open because the weather was so bad. And so we had a pretty good turnout. And I was in a street fight match. I ain't been one of them, and I don't know when. And, so it was definitely a wild night. And I fought Ali Khan, and we fought out in the streets there by the fire department.
Literal street fight.
Yeah. So it was a real good time. Of course, I met some real good friends of Herb's up there. And, it's a good weekend. And coming back to Illinois this week, I told my brother, I seen him a little while ago. I'm in Nashville now. And I just told him a while ago, I said, I was here last weekend in Illinois, and I said, I'm this week in Illinois. I said, I wrestled more in Illinois in the past 2 weeks than I did my whole career.
That's right. Man, if you here lately, if you ain't in Illinois, you're in Kentucky or vice versa. You're going to be a resident of one of those two states here before long. But yeah, shout out. You're in Nashville. They're visiting your mom, Miss Peggy. We talked about her last week on the show. We talked about that great promo she did, and now you're there getting a visit. And I know you enjoy doing this show, but I also know you got some good food waiting on you as soon as this thing wraps up, right?
Oh, that's like I was telling you. I was going to surprise her, not tell her I was coming. I thought, well, I might ought to tell her So anyway, I talked to her last night and told her I was coming. I got here and she had white beans, fresh turnip greens, fresh squash, mashed potatoes, and got some cornbread waiting on me after we get done with this.
Man.
I'm licking my lips and ready to go.
You're going to be wanting to take it home early this week. Got the good stuff waiting on you, man. Well, before we get going, by the time people are listening to this, well, hold on now. We got a run-in going on. Here he is. He's going to make the hot tag right here. Dangerous Doug is back here on Dangerous Conversations. Hey. What's up, man?
I told y'all fellas that it wouldn't take me but a minute and I'd be back. But anyway, y'all thought I was going to put my makeup and stuff on.
You wasn't lying. You wasn't lying, was you?
No, it don't take me but a second. I've been out running ever since. I talked to you earlier. Since you got in from the airport, I've been out running and just now walked back in the door. What's going on, guys?
Well, man, we were just telling everybody, we talked a little bit about Tommy's weekend up in Illinois last weekend, and we just talked about the fact that he's sitting at his mom's house in Nashville, and she's done made him a big old meal that's over there hot and ready and waiting on him, and he's over here having to talk to us about wrestling.
Oh man, hey, it's wonder we got him, man.
It is. I told him, I said, you're gonna want to take this one home early, I bet. So we're gonna try to get to it. But I did want to mention, as this is coming out at midnight on Friday, you guys will have just wrapped up in Mayfield, Kentucky, and will be getting ready to make your way for the weekend to Metropolis for that big event up there. We've been talking about it for quite a while. But it's here. It's finally getting ready to happen. The big Superman Fest up there in Metropolis, right?
Hey, man, it sure is. And there's going to be actually 2 big nights of wrestling up there, Gene. Friday night and Saturday night, also in Metropolis. And me and Tommy will be there signing autographs and talking to kids and signing stuff and just talking to the old wrestling fans and everything. And man, we can't wait. Like I said, myself, I've never been there. I think Tommy hasn't either, as far as he's probably been to Metropolis, but not for the Superman Festival and everything. But that's going to be cool for me and him both to see all the different, which Dean Cain, Gene, you remember Dean Cain?
Yeah.
Tommy, do you remember? I know, well, I don't want to say this sounding bad, but I was going to say me and you probably know the older Supermans, but Dean Cain was one of the actually last Superman, right, Gene?
Yeah, he was in the Lois and Clark series back in the day, the newer version, if you will. But
the King actually told me yesterday that Dean Cain's going to be there, and I was telling me and Tommy was excited to be at the deal, and he said, well, come over by my table and we'll go see Dean Cain, which I'm kind of a Dean Cain fan, so I thought that was cool.
Man, yeah, that'll be awesome. And, while you were away, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but, we talked 1 week about Tommy and Austin Idol's feud with Jerry Lawler and relive them, crotching Tommy against the ring post and all that fun stuff. So I'm worried, man, that Tommy might try to get you to turn on the King up there and make like old times. Tommy threatened last week he might even shave his head again up there in Metropolis. Dean Cain might have to step in as his tag team partner.
Hey, I was fixing to say, you can't ever tell you might have an extra tag match up there in Metropolis.
That's what it sounds like. Well, we mentioned, man, you've been away. You had a awesome cruise. You want to tell us a little bit about that before we get into all the wrestling stuff?
Man, Gene, we had a big time. I went to, which Tommy had told me about I've heard different people say about Alaska, about going to Alaska. And my wife had wanted to book us a trip, which, me and her are kind of big island people. So I figured when she told me one day she was going to book a trip, I figured it'd be going to the islands and everything. But I guess it's like an island, but you go to, I come home and she booked a trip to Alaska. And so we stopped in 3 places. We flew to Seattle and took a cruise to Alaska. And Tommy's been on one, and he's one of the ones that told me about it. And he said it was real cool and everything. And well, I thought when he meant like when he says real cool, like when I say it's cool, it means it's cool. It's good to do. I didn't know he meant it was actually freaking cold and freezing and everything. But no, it was nice. I mean, and everything. But it was a different adventure. And all the things I've done in the world, Gene, me or my wife had never been on a cruise before. And you figure you go on like a 2-day cruise or a 3-day cruise, you wouldn't just jump out on a 8-day cruise or something. But it was neat. It was just like I said, it was cool, which Tommy told me. I went kind of about the same time of year as Tommy went, I think last year, the year before one. And it was neat. We stopped in 3 different places in Alaska and got off the cruise ship and had a real good time and everything, got back and everything. But go ahead, Tommy.
What about the train? What about the train, Doug? What about the train coming down the mountain?
Oh, I love that. Did you like when you was on the side, Tommy, where you look over it down, it looks like it's about a mile off there, just a fall?
Oh Lord, no, because I was on that side that the bluff was on. I was leaned over like it was going to matter if that thing fell off. Yeah, but it was cool. But yeah, you know me, I don't like no heights anyway.
Well, here's the deal, Tommy. I'm not sure. Me and you haven't talked about this yet, but I was when Melissa booked ours. There was just like me, her, and another couple that we knew, and 8 other people. It was just like 12 people that was in this whole car that we was in, and the seats swiveled around. You could turn all the way around, but you had like a bartender for the whole 53 or 4 miles, whatever it is, 27 there and 27 back. But we had like a waiter or waitress or something that come and bring us if you wanted beer, if you wanted whiskey or whatever. So I thought that was kind of, or you want Coke or water, whatever you might want. But you had a waiter the whole time. It waited on you and everything, but you could, our seats swiveled all around, and you could look, Gene, and you look one way, and it's like you look into towards the rainforest, right, Tommy?
Oh, yeah.
Waterfalls. But then if you look the other side, or used on the other side, it was just a straight drop off for like a mile off,
Oh, my
like
gosh.
5 foot off the tracks. You'd go down a mile if like if the train ever fell or something, you'd just be gone. But man, it was cool. But anyway, I'm sure I missed a lot of interesting talk with you and Tommy as I've been gone this past couple weeks.
Yeah, and like I said, we talked about the feud with them against Lawler, and last week we talked about a lot of the titles that Tommy had won in the early stages of his career, from 75 up to about 82, and some really interesting names came up during that discussion. So that was a lot of fun. But man,
Wow.
We're glad to have you back, and we're going to talk about some promos.
Hey, it's good to be back, and y'all got to realize that after y'all do one of these, and I'm not on, people sends me stuff talking about what y'all said, and somebody sent me a thing said that y'all didn't get through with about 5 years of Tommy's titles, so y'all still got a lot more years to go with title stuff, and then they talked some about the Tommy Idol Lawler stuff. I got a lot of different questions on that, so I thought that was real cool. But it sounds good. It sounds like people are listening to y'all and having a good time listening to you.
Yeah, man, it went well. So, it was fun, and there's no shortage of things to talk about with Tommy. And, like I said, his titles, we probably got 3 or 4 or more or 5 more episodes. We get to talk about titles, and we start mixing your titles in there. So there's plenty to talk about. But this week, I want to talk about, one of the more important aspects of the wrestling business is being able to deliver a good promo. When I was a kid, we just called them interviews, and then when you get older, you learn that within the business, you guys, call them promos. So I guess the obvious place to start a discussion about that is maybe for you guys to kind of explain to the listeners what a wrestling promo is, what we're even referring to.
To me, as far as when you say this, is as far as when you say promos, to me, what a promo means, as far as in my head, when anybody ever says this to me, or when they was talking to me and Tommy would say, look, y'all got a promo, minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. A lot of times they give us a lot of different leadway and slack on it and everything, because what it means to me is drawing money as far as promo. Now, why I say drawing money, because while they give you that promo time and I know you had said something, Gina, I think I heard you say something about we was going to talk about promos and stuff, but as far as our promo time, what mine and Tommy's promo time was to draw money, say if it was Saturday morning for that Monday night, that Tuesday in Louisville, that Wednesday in Evansville, that Saturday in Nashville. But that time that they was giving us, they was going to see if that would draw. And if that would draw, you keep on going with that. And I mean, like I said, Tommy might have I think he's might have kind of the same outlook, but he might say it a little different than I do.
And that's it. It was all about drawing the money. I mean, and in today's world, it's pretty verbatim what they want you to say. You know, they'll give you start to finish where we'd be on that Memphis TV live, and they say you got 2.5 minutes. You've got so and so Monday night, no disqualification, and the rest you just, I mean, you ad lib. You did the interview yourself. So really the pressure was really on you because they're going by what you say. You know, it wasn't that they told me what to say. They give me what to say, and then I said it the way I say it. And that, like Dougie said, that's what brought the money. And like, I mean, there's some guys that what the best worker in the world, you might say, they can promo, knock the socks off, and draw money. You know, I mean, interviews were at least 50 more of what we were doing.
Yeah, and I think one thing, Gene, was like Tommy said, as far as them not telling us. Well, the thing in those days, that's where they put us in the spots, because I think, well, I know they had confidence that we would know what to say to draw money and everything. We would know how to say to draw money, but they wouldn't try to feed us too much stuff, because then it wouldn't be us. And I think that goes back to the character days of Wildfire, Tommy Rich, of Dangerous Doug Gilbert, of all the different guys, Jerry King Law, all the different guys' personalities. And like you could say, like you showed that one interview, which I was talking with Lawler and Tommy walked out there. Well, none of that, like I said, we did about freaking 9 minutes of just us going back and forth, us three, and none of us had talked over none of it. The only thing we knew was what match that we was going into.
Right.
We didn't know nothing about the promo, but it was just going back and forth and ad-libbing, and that's where I think we've got so far away from today. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. The world changes and it goes 180 degrees a lot of different times, and that's, usually for a good thing. But I think in the days where you can go back and watch old Georgia Championship Wrestling, CWA here in Memphis, USWA, you get to see more as far as a character guys and what they can do promos. Now, I've come back through the curtain before and somebody said, "Damn, Doug, you went too long." And then all of a sudden they might say, "But that was good." So usually if it was good or you went too long, well, we can deal with that as long as it's good and it draws money. As long as it draws money, they're usually going to be able to deal with it. Right, Tommy?
Yes, sir. And there again, I mean, it was that leeway that they give. Like that the people believed in wrestling. I mean, it's kind of like a magic trick. You go see a magic trick, and once you know how they do it, then it ain't near as good. You don't care about it so much. And the promos, they let us ad lib with it. And I think, because we were in the matches and the people knew, and so it worked out good.
And two, I think, Gene, that, and this is a good thing, anybody can say whatever, you might laugh, but they thought we can't ever, you don't ever know what Tommy might say, or you don't know what Doug might say. Promos that and the good thing about all the stuff as far as the, like Tommy stuff, my stuff and everything, people would say, even if they knew what match we was going to be in, if they said it before we come out there, they didn't know what we might say, and that was a kind of intriguing part of that, I think.
Yeah, because like
they really didn't ever know what we was going to say, especially my Bubba there.
No kidding. Because if we're using Memphis for the example, like Lance and Dave, could run down the card for Monday night, and they could say, Monday night, Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert's going to be wrestling Jerry Lawler and Austin Idol, or whatever the case may be. But if people don't understand what you mean when you say drawing money, like guys can, they can be as good a worker, they can have as many 5-star matches as they want, but if nobody buys a ticket to see it, it doesn't matter, and they can announce whatever matches they want. But you guys had to go out there and give everybody a compelling reason to come see that match. And so you guys are sitting back there thinking like, all right, what can I say to make them want to see us fight Monday night, right?
And say, Gene, you're saying it better. Me and Tommy are saying drawing money, and you're saying the right way, selling tickets. I mean, which to me and Tommy, drawing money is selling tickets. What you just said, making people come, but to get people to buy tickets, for us to, you'd hear a lot of people say, talk the people into the building. And you know, a lot of different times, that's what those promos that you're talking about, the interviews, and you know, they would come on Monday nights. They used to. I remember when I was a little boy, and you know, Tommy was already in business and everything, and they do promos for Louisville and Evansville and Nashville. They would do the promos on Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum in the back, and I'd get to sit back there, and they'd have Lance back there, and you know, Lance would cut to a lot of them, and they would shoot them in the shows in Louisville and Nashville and Evansville. And man, Tommy, they were some great promos done in that Mid-South Coliseum in the back, in that second room back there, wasn't it?
Oh, and hey, and in layman's terms, y'all said it. We've said it two different ways. Hey, it was about putting butts in the seats, is what it amounted to. You know, I mean, you could have one of the best matches in the world, but if the promos didn't match the match, then it wasn't near as good. I mean, so you had the promos as much as it did as the wrestling. I mean, because that's, I mean, like you said, I mean, selling tickets. That's how back then. That's how you got paid, by selling tickets, putting the butts in the seats. I mean, that's how we made our money. So you went out there and had, and on them live TVs, you didn't, you know, like when we do Evansville or Louisville, you know, if the promo wasn't right or the interview wasn't right, you know, we could always cut it and do it over. When you was on that live TV, you had one shot to get it right, and if you didn't, Memphis wouldn't draw on a Monday night. If their promos wasn't good, because that's what made them people come on Monday night.
And it was very seldom, Gene, that and which you might have seen something and you thought was great, and me and Tommy might have seen something that we didn't think was very good, but it was very seldom that usually after we left TV, which sometimes we go, you know, I think good, but maybe not great, but seldom was it ever that we was close to right more than not, as far as on what we thought was really good and what we thought wasn't. But I mean, we could kind of feel, you know, you kind of feel it at TV as it was going, what it was going to do, whether it was going to do good, great, you hope never bad, but I mean, you was going to have an off week here and there. But sometimes you just, I don't want to say you'd miss it or not guess it right or whatever, but every once in a while you'd be wrong, but more we would be right than we would be wrong, I think.
Yeah, you could always, like, because we get together after the TV, and you could always tell if that TV clicked, if that TV would click, it was on time, the matches were good, interviews run smooth, you would know. You'd say, Monday night's going to be a good house.
And when it would click,
it would be.
And when it would click, Gene, it would go by. It seemed like it would go by that quick. I mean, TV would, you know, when it would go so good, it would be over so quick. It was like your stuff went good, but it would just flow so good and everything. But that's how, and like I would talk with Tommy, and usually whoever we was working with, or Tommy was working with somebody, and I was working with somebody else, we'd kind of all talk and say, what do you think about TV? Or they'd ask me, and I'd say, well, I thought this was good and that was good. This might have been a little better, but I think overall, you know, most was good. And usually when we'd say that, it would kind of follow that way.
And back then, that's I mean, we could take our own stuff and we would talk about it. I mean, not just our stuff, but if there was something else happening, everybody, you would watch it and see what your opinion was of it. And that was a cool thing too, because Jerry Lawler or Jerry Jarrett, either one, our opinion meant something. You know, they were open to suggestion. And that's what made it good too, though. I mean, you know, like now, guys don't even watch matches hardly no more. And you know, I mean, and everybody's into their own thing instead of wanting the whole thing to be good. You know, they just worried about their stuff. You know, where we worried about the whole package.
Right. And like, I know like a lot of people thinking in today's terms will go back and look at like results, like on these shows where we go over like a year's worth of results or whatever. And they'll go like, man, you know, how did Lawler and Dundee wrestle in the Coliseum every Monday night for 13 weeks? Or how did, you know, the Gilberts and Lawler feud, you know, for all these weeks in a row? And that's what, you know, results don't tell you. You got to go back and watch the TV and realize that those promos and those angles on TV is what kept it fresh and kept going. And one thing that really stands out in my mind that we talked about here, for instance, Doug, is that 6-man cage match where you guys lost, you get your head shaved, and on the surface, when you left the Coliseum that night, you think, all right, well, they lost, they shaved Doug's head, this is pretty much it. What are these guys going to do? And then Saturday morning, you come out with a mask on, you take the mask off, you got a wig, y'all are laughing. Eddie's like, hey, we gave him the hair elixir, he's fine. Y'all didn't do nothing, and y'all laugh it off, and boom, you got another match. The people are mad all over again.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that, you know.
Here's the thing, Gene, which is in different parts of the world, I don't really think it's different, but some people would say, you know, it's the strangest thing in the South. That's why I laugh at people up north tell me, y'all do some of the strangest stuff down there. And I say, but you know what? Y'all watched every bit of it. So y'all must think something's intriguing about it for y'all to watch it also because all of it was syndicated everywhere, Gene. And that's what people don't realize. And there's so many people that watch like this Memphis show and everything. And I mean, like I said, Tommy was fortunate. He was one of the first ones ever on national TV that was over, would say like wildfire, but that'd be kind of a catchphrase. But, you know, Tommy was right on that national TV. But I mean, everybody, Memphis went everywhere. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And I laugh because when the guys bought the promotion from Lawler that time, the reason they said they bought it was because all the syndication was so good. See, nobody ever used the syndication to make any money. But, Gene, it was in Chicago. It was in New York. It was in every big city up north there was. Now, we didn't use that for nothing, but I'm sure that there would have been a way to have made money off that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, at the time, go ahead, Tom.
And a lot of their promotions up, Memphis was, people say what they want to do too about Memphis, but Memphis was the originator of a lot of stuff that people wasn't doing. But like Dougie said, they eventually was seeing it, so they started doing it with their promotion too. They were going a different way, but they seen you know, the Memphis style stuff and seen how it was drawing and stuff, and so they adapted to that too. I mean, you know, Jared and Lawler both. I mean, they were, you know, they were trendsetters. I mean, because it was. I mean, the first video thing. I mean, it originated in Memphis, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And Gene, it's like, hey, I'd laugh, Gene, at Terry Funk. He was the funniest to me as far as, and y'all guys, I think, can hear him say this. He said, you know what, Doug? He said, that Jerry Lawler, they can knock him all they want. He said, all he's done is sit at home and made a living at it. I said, all he's done is what? He said, never had to leave Memphis and made a living. He said, people can say whatever they want about him, but he just sat home and made a living. I thought he made a hell of a living sitting at home. But yes, I mean, which don't get me wrong, he went on the road and he went all over the world. But what Terry was saying was before he ever left Memphis, he never had to leave Memphis. He could have stayed right in Memphis, and every Monday night drew money for Jared and him to make money. I mean, and you know, I mean, it's just kind of amazing. Like you say, you talk about all the different, and Tommy does the different territories. But like I said, the Memphis TV, it went to so many different places that people don't really think about. We just, you know, like when me and you and Tommy talk, we talk about Memphis, Nashville, Evansville, the different weekly towns. But the actual show went into so many different cities. I mean, like I said, it was on syndication. And the funny thing about it, like, you know, if we knew now if we knew then what we know now, we would have kept every one of them tapes. You know what I'm saying? The original tapes, Jerry and Lawler would record over them every week, Gene.
Yeah.
And send them out.
Whew, kills my soul to hear that.
When they had that 3/4 tape, you know,
right.
3/4 inch tape, and that stuff was the same thing in Atlanta too. I mean, there ain't no telling how much stuff they erased and taped over. I mean, it's unreal, and I never knew that till, you know, much later. But yeah, they would once they used that tape all the way, they'd start it back and just roll over it.
And in so many ways, like, it's not even the same business anymore, because the business model of today, you couldn't do the things they do today back in the territory days and survive, because
Well, and that goes back to, if you just say right the opposite, Gene, they couldn't do the things that we did back then today either, could they? A lot of things.
No.
Well, what I'm saying is you could have, but you would catch a lot of flack and a lot of backlash over, I would think.
And you couldn't make anybody, like, everything y'all did was predicated on people believing in what you were doing.
Well, that's true, but I'm saying some of the stuff that I might have said or Tommy might have said, the way we said it. And I mean, I'm not talking about the bad stuff I said. I'm just talking about on weekly TV. And I'm not saying we said awful stuff, but you just can't say nothing anymore, hardly even to hurt anybody's feelings, to get heat. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying cheap heat, but I'm saying like interviews, me and Tommy would say, I would say a thing or two here or there. And you know how these days, how everybody's feelings are so easy to be hurt. And we would really have to watch. But like you said, I mean, today it's different. But back then, if you think about what we were saying, we would, even if it was then, now, we would still have to watch. I think, I'd have to really watch what I said.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com. And to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com.
Hot stuff. Eddie Gilbert said he would reveal eventually why he came to the Continental area. I think it's high time.
Yes, I don't really have to do that anymore, Gordon Sully, because you see, our general manager, actually our now, because I'm part of the team here now, I'm with the Continental Wrestling Federation, as Jack Curtis put it. He let the cat out of the bag, because when the man said there's going to be one champion in the area, Continental Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion, that's the reason why I'm here, Gordon Sully. I was here. I know you just had an interview with Jerry Lawler. That's the reason why he's coming here. He wants Kurt Hennig. I want Kurt Hennig. I want to be the AWA World's Heavyweight Champion. That's the reason why I'm here. That's the reason why you feel so great having Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert here. Don't get close to me, because a lot of rumors are going around that I shoot fire out or something like that.
Yeah, well, that was just the thing I was going to bring up.
That tape either, didn't you?
No, we didn't, but I'll tell you what.
That's right.
We found the master and made a copy, and so right now, let's take a look at Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert and his controversial behavior.
Yeah, because even into the 90s, like the things that you guys would say in the 80s that made you heels became what the baby faces were saying in the 90s. Like, for instance, Steve Austin, he became like what everybody saw as a baby face, but he's Mr. Tough Guy, badass. Nobody gets heat on him. Nobody gets him in any kind of peril. Where if you look back into the 80s, Lawler was great at it. Jerry Jarrett was great at it. That man right there, Tommy Rich, was a master of it in Memphis and in Georgia, where he just gets beat half to death. And he comes out on that TV to sell those tickets, like you said, draw that money. I need you people down there Monday night. Man, they've beat me down. They've hurt me. They've injured me. They've bloodied me. They've done all these things. But I need you people there Monday night. If I don't have your support, I can't win this. Where Steve Austin and the guys in the 90s are like, I'll whoop everybody down there, and I don't need nobody's son, and all that. I mean, it was just so backwards, from what everything was built on in the 80s.
Well, I think, I think they had, when you kind of changed to that, Gene, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I think the guys got over with their stuff a little bit as far as the Steve Austin over huge, and a lot of the guys over huge as far as going that direction. But I think that was just a different direction than when they pushed that direction so far. Everybody, and the first time somebody does something and people sees it getting over you, and what are they going to do? Then you're going to have a dozen other people trying to do the exact same thing. So, I mean, it's C1, one monkey jump off the roof, the rest of them's going to jump off the roof after you. But I mean, but like I said, you look at the late 80s, through 95, 96, through there, the heels as far as what me and Tommy was heels as far as what, and you could say your conventional or maybe non-conventional baby faces such as Jerry Lawler, Brian Christopher, Bill Dundee, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Austin Idol, all the different guys that me and Tommy would work with, which you got to realize now that was somebody, look at me and Tommy's promos and us saying, oh, we're going to beat you and you come, whoever you are, we're going to beat you. But I mean, we would say that and say that we're better than them and there's no way that they could beat us. But every guy that we work with on that list that I just give you right now, tell me one of them that couldn't cut a good promo. And I mean, see, there was great things to say. And if you would ever really listen to what me and Tommy had to say, you'd always realize 90% of the time, the baby faces had a promo after us to cut so they could cut their promo back. It was hardly never. Every once in a while, we might go back and forth at the end of one of the promos, like with them or whatever. But usually it was always left for them to get the last word to when we're saying selling, putting butts in seats and selling tickets, for them to say, you come on down and we'll guarantee that we're going to kick the butts here, Monday night. Yeah.
So. And going back, I mean, talking about the 80s, 90s, in today's world, you could be Superman because you ain't in a town but once every 3 months or something, where back when we was doing it, I mean, we was in the same town week after week. I mean, 352 weeks a year. I mean, we worked probably 350, 340 days a year. And that was the thing. I mean, if I went out there and our angles, I mean, they'd run, whereas an angle might last 4 weeks. You're lucky. Back then, like I said, we was there every week. And the creativity and stuff, I mean, but it would be like when I was a baby face, I would sell my tail off, because if I went out there and just beat the daylights out of the hill, then it would be over. So, and I think people wanted to see you get whipped so they could holler for you to come on and get up, and then when you would get up and start firing, and them heels would start selling it, then you had something, and then you cut your promo for we're gonna be back next week. I might almost got whooped this week, but hey, next week it's gonna be better. We liable got Doug and me liable got beat this week, and we said we beat y'all to death. Just go on there and lie about it, and that was the good thing about it. And people, because the matches were good, so they were buying what we were selling. They were buying, especially to come back week after week. And summertime was always good, even during the wintertime. You go out, we go look, and you could tell that the building, whether the show was good, because it would be a heck of a house. I mean, we was in Louisville, Kentucky one time, and half the guys come out, and there was a foot of snow on the ground, and we never got out of the building because of all the snow, and they did $12,000 or something. It was unbelievable what they done, because the people was, they was coming here regardless. I mean, we come out, and we like not never got back to Nashville, but I mean, and the fans there too. We thought at the beginning when we got there that they canceled the show. Well, they didn't cancel the show because they had a hell of a crowd. Because buying not just the wrestling, but the promos too. I mean, and like you said, promos are a big part of it.
Yeah, it's a huge. I mean, especially in those days. And so, like then, you would have guys who could work and could tell a story in the ring, but just couldn't do a promo to save their life. Like after years, they still couldn't cut a promo. And then that's where managers become important, right? I mean, isn't that the main function of the manager, is to be able to do a promo for guys? Now, granted, there's managers who had guys who could also talk, but it was more important to have managers with guys who couldn't necessarily carry a promo, right?
Well, I think so, Gene, as far as that, but also you could go back as far as baby faces. You could put a baby face with a partner that could cut a promo, and he could kind of carry that promo for his partner. And like Tommy can probably think of a few guys, but I mean, there's different guys. And even as far as heels, if you didn't want to have a manager with them, you usually have at least one of the two heels. If there was a tag team that could talk, maybe one not so much. But I mean, knock on wood that, you know, they're like you said, the head managers, but the office would always figure out a way to put somebody with them to use it. If they was a good enough worker and everything, as far as smoothing the ring and everything, figure out a way to put somebody with them, a mouthpiece that could talk for them.
Which was something Eddie was great at. I mean, that he was utilizing that. You know, you could put him out there with a Korchenko or a Green Sting and Rick Steiner, who they're still learning, but Eddie could talk for them, and he could still get in the ring and wrestle too.
And Eddie's mind was so out there with it, as far as, I mean, he thought so much about everything that he did. And when somebody just give him a suggestion, like some of the guys you just said, Gene, I mean, his mind would start freaking spinning, and it'd go 1,000 miles an hour, and he'd have 100 different directions to go with it. And that's what was so cool, and what I think made him so great with all those different guys.
Hey, where me and Dougie was staying after the matches, where we was thinking about where we was going to go or something, Eddie be thinking about, what can we do to better this from here? You know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, you know, we had our little input, but Eddie, he was always thinking. I mean, that was his main objective. I mean, and again, I mean, and Doug too. I mean, he grew up, shoot, they was coming with Tommy when they was kids. You know, I remember Eddie taking pictures in Louisville or Evansville, and he just grew up, I mean, and just and ate the business up, you know.
But and you know what, Gino, you could say to Eddie, one of the cool things, like I could be going to the ring to a match or something, and say, hey, think of something for me to do or something, and you know, you could just say that going out, and I mean, mean it, but not thinking he would think more about it. And you come back in from work, and he'd say, I got something. I'd say, what are you talking about? I'd be on and lace my boots or something. He'd say, well, you told me to think of something for. And I said, okay, well, what you got? And then he'd go to spilling out like a whole freaking angle that was over 2 months or something, when I just went to the ring and went like 15 or 16 minutes, and I come back and he's done got 2 months worth of a angle laid out here, and he'd say, do you want me to get that done? And I'd say, well, yeah, if you think it's good, get it done. And he'd go pitch it to Lawler, one of them, and there it'd be. But I mean, like Tommy said, I mean, I think me and Tommy thought about our stuff a lot, but like I said, Eddie just enjoyed it. Where me and Tommy go out and do something, have fun and everything. Eddie's mind would just be so into it. It was just, and I mean, he enjoyed it. It wasn't like work to him. That was the difference of it. And,
I mean, like after a match, me and Doug be in the car, we talk back and forth about our match, and it may be another one or something where Eddie he would watch a match, would see every match and what could be done there, where we'd leave and we'd talk about what we were doing. And you know, I mean, like I said, we'd watch some matches, but we pretty much just took our business, where Eddie was just such a good mind. He could take it. If he said he critiqued something, it'd be really good.
And he would want to put, Gene, he'd be thinking, who am I going to put as far as in these other programs, where me and Tommy think about mine he is, or who he was working with, who I was working with, and different things. And like another match or two, maybe me and him had saw that we thought would be good, where I'm saying about 3 or 4 matches that me and Tommy be talking about. Eddie be talking about these 4 up here and these 3 down here, which basically was the whole card, and who he thought if you switched up down here, and if you move this guy from down here to up here, and you know, change the booking wise a little bit, that he thought it would make it draw more. And that's where I think me and Tommy would say we would look more into and think more about, well, on this promo, if we would have said this, maybe this would have been better. Even if it was good on Monday night or Tuesday night, I'd still say to Tommy, well, on our promos, we said this. You know what, maybe if we said this, do you think that would have been better? But I told Tommy a lot of times I thought we would critique and second guess ourselves more than anybody else would. But it was just a thing as far as wanting things to be good and do good. And because anybody can say whatever they want and not money and this and that, but when me and Tommy was on the guarantees here, Gene, to get those guarantees, you had to draw money. If you didn't draw money very much, you wasn't going to be on those guarantees real long.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just heard somebody saying something the other day, and they was questioning the South as far as payoffs. And I was fixed. I don't know this, but I do know this. I know Tommy's made a whole lot of money, and he's worked in the South a whole lot. But somebody was saying, well, does the Southern guys, was the money as good as the Northern guys? Well, I mean, I'd say it would depend on where it was used at on the cards. But, I mean, I think the money was, it depended on who was booking, who you worked for. And like I said, whether he's on a guarantee or whether he wasn't. But I think there was a lot of fair payoffs. I mean, everybody says that there's probably some that we could have been paid a little bit more, but I think there was a lot of money. Like I said, a lot of times it was guaranteed, so it didn't matter if you drew more money. As long as you was getting that guarantee, even if you didn't draw it and you were still getting it, so you couldn't say nothing about if you was drawing more and not getting more money, but you were still getting your guarantees.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And a lot of that's just what kind of, are you able to negotiate? Or are you the kind of guy that can go in there and demand the money you deserve?
If you've got the leverage. I mean, and whether that sounds good or not, right, Tommy? That's kind of the.
Yeah, I mean, and that's but when we first started and first got a break, though, I mean, you got to be proved yourself in the business to get a guarantee to begin with, the cost of living in the North is more than it is in the South. So our money might have been a little different, maybe, but all in all, because the cost of living is cheaper here, and we were home every night, where some of them guys were gone 3 or 4 days, so you spending a bunch more money on the road. But that's where you learn, though, there again about the promos. That's where you learn. I mean, especially when you're getting paid, the butt you put in the seats, that you've got to go out, and that's why we would critique our stuff so much. Because we would, and something like Doug said, something we might have thought wasn't right. Well, them fans might not have seen what we see.
Right.
We're not spot up or something, and where we said, "Damn, I wish we'd done that right." They don't. It's long. Like I've seen guys be doing a spot and they mess it up and they just stop. As long as you keep going with that flow, the only people that know you messed it up is you and the guys you're working with. Stuff. So a lot of that, and it's a learning process. I mean, and you learn that too. It's like with the promos, it's little things, and it is art to it, just like it's art to wrestling. And we're our own worst critics sometimes, I think, because we worried about it. And then like Doug said, you get on the guarantee, then you got to prove yourself every week. So you really want to do, have a hell of a match and a hell of a promo. So a lot of that, yeah. I mean, and we did Tennessee. I mean, I couldn't have broke in no better place, man.
And you know what's cool, Gene, is we don't talk about Thursday nights and Friday night towns that much, but man, some of the coolest towns. Which don't get me wrong, I love Memphis, I love Louisville, I love Nashville. I hate to say it, I guess I loved Evansville too, all the weekly towns, but the Thursday night towns and Friday night towns, it was different almost every week of the year, where we just go to different towns and stuff. Man, if you look back at it, or myself, as far as looking back at it, I look back at it and I think about how some of the to me, the funnest nights and stuff it was like, we would call them spot shows and everything, but we'd go to different towns, and like they might book me and Tommy every once in a while. Usually we'd be against whoever we was against on TV, but sometimes they'd book us against just somebody totally different. And that was just nights where we'd go out there in the ring, and you'd have as much time as you wanted. Believe me, a lot of guys didn't go no time. So, I mean, usually me and Tommy would be asked, look, y'all need to make sure this show's long enough. So usually we wouldn't even ask. We just go long usually. Right. But it was cool, and you could, we could do whatever we wanted, and it wound up being good every night.
Hey, and Tupelo, Mississippi. Now Tupelo was a good town. I love Tupelo, Mississippi, man. you. That was hey, and I remember when I first started in Tupelo, Mississippi, and they would sell it out every week. It was on Friday night. You'd hit Tupelo, Mississippi, drive into Memphis for Memphis TV, and then hit Jonesboro on Saturday night. And like Dougie said, like once you got a few guys in the territory, they'd run spot shows too. But like at Tupelo, when I first started, they'd have 8 guys on the card. Doug would be in a single, I'd be in a single. They'd have one more match, and then we'd come back in the tag.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it'd be sold out. I mean,
yeah, or come back like the first 3 of us that was in matches, Gene, and us come back in a 6-man.
Right.
You know, something like that. But I was going to say, but Tommy's done brought it up. I was going to say Gene's hometown, Jonesboro. We'd go over there. We'd have a good time.
Jonesboro. Yeah, Tupelo was close to my hometown, and I got to go to a lot of shows there when I was a kid. And you know, it was always fun to me to think that the big famous, you know, concession stand fight happened right up the road from me up there, and you know, all that kind of thing, and then just all the cool stuff that happened in Tupelo. But I never really got to go up to the shows in Memphis until I got to be a teenager. So that was on when I was getting closer to high school and things like that. But
that's when you about to break bad, wasn't it, Gene?
Yeah. yeah, exactly. So, you know, I guess to kind of wrap up the promo thing, you know, in your minds, you know, we talked about how now, you know, it's scripted and everybody gripes about that and everybody talks, oh, you know, everything's scripted now. But do you think if somebody, you know, if Jerry Jarrett would have came and handed you guys a script on Saturday morning, could Dangerous Doug have been Dangerous Doug? Could Wildfire Tommy Rich have turned into Wild? Could Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert have been? Could you guys have been what you guys became if somebody would have been putting words in your mouth all those years and not let you be you?
no, because I mean I don't think so because it's like Dougie said, and he said that this earlier. We were characters. I mean, you know, I was a little skinny kid, just like Jerry Jarrett was tagged with Tojo. I tagged with Tojo. And we became characters. So you become the character, and then you just got to keep it going. And I don't think, you know, and I think that's where Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett were smart too. They knew that we had to be ourselves in order for it to draw. If I go out there and I'm doing some kind of promo that ain't me, people see through that. And you know, so I think that had a lot to do with it too.
And I think, Gene, as far as where Jarrett was so smart and Lawler was Lawler would talk to like Tommy and myself and you know, and tell us, like, he would never tell us what to say, but he would tell us where we was going, where he could throw that at us where we was going, and then us lead off of that. And Lawler he knew us well enough to know that, you know, he'd think, well, I know I would hate what they would say, you know, as far as, and like I said, he wouldn't never tell us what to say. He would just say where we was going and come up with this. I mean, there was never, like when we were going, there was a little room back there, about a 10 by 10 room, Gene, and me and Tommy might walk in there in this room with him, and he'd look at his sheet, and he was the last one always in the history that I've ever known, as far as a guy that was writing TVs out. He might be, as the TV was getting ready to come on, he was still writing it. And he would just look at me and Tommy and say, hey, y'all are on the 3rd segment, and he was still writing as he's doing, and say, y'all got a match, 4 or 5 minutes, and you got a 3-minute promo, but here, this is what you're in, and sell tickets. And I mean, just that was, you know, I mean, you can't really get any more free of a reign than that, as far as for you to be in one of the programs. Now, if you wasn't in a program to even draw money or anything, you know, you could see somebody kind of doing you like that. But when you're in one of the top 2 programs to draw for that night and for the rest of the week, usually that's real lenient. You don't usually have owners and bookers that are that laid back. And not that, I'll say this, I don't say that Lawler was laid back, but as far as his business way, a lot of time he wasn't, but as far as TV wise, I think he had confidence in the guys in his guys that they would do a good job where he wasn't that worried about it as far as, and now he might, during the TV, something might run through his head and he might run up to me before I went out or something and say, hey, I just thought about this. If you put this in there or throw this in there, and if I did, I did. If I didn't, he would never say nothing about it. But if he did have something that he thought was good, I would usually try to do it because as far as mind-wise and as good as he was, usually if he come up with something, it's very rare that it was wrong, that it wasn't good.
And the funny thing, like Doug said, Jerry, he's 2 or 3 weeks ahead. He knows he's got a vision where you might come into that Memphis TV on Saturday morning and be 2 matches before you have to go out. And Jerry come up to you and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and boom, and you'd have to be right on it, but it was the right thing to do. I mean, Jerry was, he'd come up like Doug said, you'd be on the way to the ring, and he'd tell you something and do it because you knew it was the right thing to do. Jerry, he knew how that TV worked, and he knew what to do.
And I mean, even like when Lawler was writing it out, he might write out, I mean, we're still in an angle around the whole territory, but he might write out the TV and get to the end of the TV. And like if I hadn't been on it but a segment, or Tommy hadn't been on it but a segment, hell, he'd book himself against Tommy or me in the last match just to put us back on there, then have the other one hit the ring and us both jump on him at the end or something. But it was it would be like you would think, damn, how's he do this and everything? But I mean, he would write it out as he went. And I mean, there'd be sometimes he would already have it, but a lot of the time but he always said, and I always thought that some of the best stuff that we did seemed to be last minute stuff. I mean, that was just really good stuff.
Off the cuff, I mean, and that's where, I think that's where Jerry was so good. And he had his idea what he was doing, but he might, get to that TV and think, well, this might be a little bit better, and he'd tell you, and it would be better. So he was, and Jerry Law was another. He was always thinking about the business.
And it was like he told me one day, Gene, I was getting ready. I'd got TV and walked in. He said, you know what? I said, what? He said, a guy come up to me last week after TV, and he said, man, you did an interview, and I don't even remember what I was talking about now, Gene, but he said, man, the guy said that he really felt what you was talking about. I said, and I thought he was messing with me because a lot of times he'd play ribs on me and say stuff in front of Tommy and get him and Tommy laughing at me, messing with me. And I said, yeah, right. He said, no. He said, I'm serious. He said, you remember what you was talking about last week? It was something I was doing something with Brian Lee, like in some kind of program with Brian Lee. I said, yeah, Brian Lee was talking about something personal, and I said this. He said, that guy said it really resonated with him, and that he really felt what you was saying. And I thought, and I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, if he's fixing to freaking start laughing or pop some kind of joke to Tommy, which, they'd mess with me a lot, and I'm a big sucker for it and everything. But he said, no, he said, I'm really not playing. He said, but that guy, he said, he really believed that, and it was personal to him. He said, if you get in these people's minds that this is that personal and you can get them to feel that, he said, we've got something. And I mean, that's, so like I said, I always try to listen to him, Tommy, the guys that I knew was good and knew what they was doing. Like I said, a lot of time I think we had just, had staggered up on something that was good. But I mean, Tommy was a smart guy. Lawler was so smart. I mean, Jared was smart. Jared was just, he would, like I say, Eddie would overthink things. I mean, they would have stuff booked 2 months ahead where Lawler would do his off. There was a lot of guys that did great promos, and like I said, Tommy, his whole career, which he learned from some of the best.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you were just talking about. I know as a fan, I experienced that a lot over the years where, I felt it and I'm like, man, that's real. He means that, and you guys more than a lot of guys, I a lot of times, man, the one of the promos you did after you had first, come back after Eddie passed and things like that. And you're like, I know this is real right now, and to be able to tap into things like that and make it a part of the show and use that to sell tickets always fascinated me, because I'm like, man, that's got to be tough to do. But, here he is, he's doing it and he's, doing business with it. And I always thought that was cool, even though I'm sure it's not easy to do, but it's definitely something I know, like Eddie would respect, and he would definitely do that. And that's one of the first guys I really remember. He would say things, and you'd be like, I don't think he was necessarily supposed to say that.
Right. Exactly. But I think that's what's cool when people understand that, what makes people believe it. And like people's always told me, said, you know what, you can always down here, if you go somewhere and like myself and Tommy's there or Lawler's there, and he said, the person told me, he said, when anywhere that we go and y'all are in the same town and we don't know what might happen, so that's when you really know wrestling. We really think everything's real. I said, well, everything is real. I said, you can't ever tell what might be said and whose feelings might have been hurt here or there. I said, but and the only thing, Gene, we was doing business. I mean, and at different times we might have all got crossed here or there and everything, but we've done a whole lot of business over the years since Tommy started, since I started. We've all done a whole lot of business together during the years, and a lot of it's been really good.
One last thing I want to mention I didn't bring up that I think, to be fair to like the guys these days, because, you're like, oh, you're scripted and all this. But one thing that you guys had to do that it gave you an opportunity to get really good at this is back in those days, at the Coliseum, those backroom promos with Lance where you're cutting a promo for your match coming up in Evansville, and then another one for Louisville, and then another one for, Nashville. So you did all, like, you guys would have to do this marathon of promos, and you had to hit the times, because I've had people ask me, like, man, how were they able to just do, like, if they tell them 2 minutes, how did they know? And I'm like, man, once you've done enough of those, like, they know in their head what's 2 minutes, 3, 4.
And Gene, what I was saying earlier, like in the back when I was a young kid, they do the promos like start at like 5 or 5:30, before the Memphis show would start, and do all the Lance would have, they had sheets of promos that they had to do, and what every one of them where they had to be stuck in the TV. And Jerry Jarrett's what had been his brother-in-law, Randy West, right, Tommy? He was the camera guy that stuck everything in, but he would have like a list of interviews that need to be stuck in all the shows and everything. And I'd walk back there and sit down. Like I said, the cool thing was Lance would do a lot of them with the guys, right, to be stuck in. Yeah. And man, I'd get to sit and listen and watch this just in a room about a 20 by 20 or 26 by 26 room, and they'd have a curtain up in the back and everything. And I just sit over there. There was wood lockers around. It was like kind of a locker room type deal. And at the if you walk in our dressing room, I say our dressing room, at the front of it, there was like 1, 2, 3, 4 dressing rooms. On the left side would be Lawler's dressing room. On the right side would be like Eddie Marlin's and them guys, and like Tommy'd have a dressing room. Tommy and Eddie'd have one at times. Me and Tommy'd have one at times, and it'd be different guys. And the next dressing room back would be where we cut all the promos at and everything. And that's where, man, there was so many great promos. Every person that come through this territory, and you know how many that is. I mean, everybody basically ever in wrestling. I told somebody the other day, they asked me about who had I not wrestled or who had I not worked on a show with, and I said, well, who has not come through Memphis? I mean, you tell me who hadn't come through Memphis. That'd be a hard thing for me to answer for you. But I used to sit back there, like I said, when I was young and Tommy had done started and everything, listening from Tommy and them guys and all the different guys cut promos. And I mean, they're talking about talking people into the building in Louisville and in Nashville and in Evansville. And man, you're talking about some great stuff.
And you had to keep track of what tape was running in that town that week.
Right. Well, I mean, it was always the next
right.
week. You know what I'm saying? It was the bicycle tape that those would be on, and then the next week would be the next one, until you had something different. Like a lot of times you're talking about Tommy and Idol and Lawler. Now, see, Tommy and Idol wouldn't always come back in for Louisville or for Nashville, or they might come in for Nashville. So they wouldn't cut nothing for the Louisville one, but they would stick it in the Nashville show, where like Tommy where they used Tommy a lot more than they would Idol. Tommy was a lot easier to deal with. And Tommy would come in and just work with Lawler. So Tommy'd have to cut extra promos for this town or that town that they would stick in there and everything. And see, that would be there would be all kind of different promos cut for different things.
And you talk about, I mean, the pressure, like on Memphis TV, doing a live interview, knowing you got to get it right. Well, y'all talking about going back in that room. And all the guys that was doing promos would be in that room because they were doing like boom, boom. You might not be on the Louisville one, but you'd be on the Evansville. So they put two guys in the back. They really like it to run smooth. Say like I messed the interview up, then you got to start over, and that kills time. And if everybody does it, so like you want to do them just like you do them a live one because you knew if you messed up, you'd have to heck back. Like you messed that one up,
Right.
So you had to pray. Want to just do them right. I mean, you want them to be what you want them to draw, and we might do one sometimes. Say, well, let's do it over. But you'd always try to hit them right because everybody wanted to get theirs done. So you wanted to do it right and not slow the line down.
And you're going to laugh. You're going to do them right, too, Gino. Lance, he's going to cigarette break every once in a while. So as long as everybody done it right, we stop and smoke him a cigarette. And I used to pop because, you wouldn't think of all guys the way Lance looked to me, like not a cigarette type guy. Here he'd pop a cigarette out and smoke a cigarette, but I'd pop. That always, just something about that always get me.
Come on, Tommy. I need a cigarette. Well, guys, I knew this would be a fun topic, and I knew you guys would have plenty to say about it. And I think we covered promos pretty thoroughly. But as we wrap up, everybody talks about the Mount Rushmore of this and that. Who do you guys think's maybe the top? Taking yourselves out of the equation, obviously. Who do you think's like maybe the top, 3 or 4 promo guys in wrestling, in your opinion, that you saw over the years?
I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, Harley Race could do a hell of an interview. Roddy Piper. I mean, I love Roddy Piper's interview. The energy he had. I mean, but it's just when everybody was in character. I mean, and Dr. Ken Ramey back in the day with the intern, he'd come out talking about they're going to do surgical surgery on them and do the, I mean, they were in character, and I think that's, has a lot to do with it.
You're going to laugh, Gene, which Tommy said Harley Race. I always thought Harley was great as far as promos and stuff, but you're going to laugh. Another guy thought he was just a freaking – he just reminded me of a star, and he talked so good and everything, was Nick Bockwinkel. I love Bockwinkel.
I was thinking the same thing, man. I was going to throw that in if nobody said it.
Yeah, Bockwinkel was one of my favorites. And now y'all both aren't going to believe that I'm fixing to say this, but now what I mean by this is if you just think how he carried himself. What about Dr. D. David Schultz? I'm talking about a different way. Like Tommy said, Roddy Piper, energy. I'm talking about the energy-wise, I'm talking about a young David Schultz, in his wild days. I mean,
and he would make the announcers uncomfortable, and even watching it, especially when you go back and watch it now, you're almost uncomfortable watching because, like, what's this guy fixing to say? Like, it's probably going to be something he wasn't supposed to say. Like, not shooty, but I mean, it's things that you can't. Even then, you probably didn't need to say on TV.
That's why David got over like David got over, because he would say what he meant and mean what he said, and that I mean, he would kind of out there. I mean, and people believe that. I mean, and when he'd say something, you take it to the bank, especially he'd come out somebody off wall stuff,
Well, And we were watching in '85 when he came back after he got fired. The whole 2020 thing. He's out there in '85 on TV, and he's like, "Jerry Lawler, you probably got AIDS, boy. I bet you got AIDS." And Lance Russell's just like, "What?"
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, the energy and the different, like anything what he might say. But what I'm saying about as far as Race, Bockwinkel, the different ones like that. But then you go into, like I say, a Schultz, a Brody. If you look at some of the freaking Brody promos, Brody wouldn't, as far as, I don't think, make one person uncomfortable as far as he would scare people freaking, with death. Which I said to Lawler one time that I run one of the Sheik, the original Sheik, kind of got after me one time, in which I'd get like all the baby faces stuff from the ring carried back. Well, when I was getting Lawler's stuff, he's working as a Sheik at night. That Sheik started coming towards me. I took out running with Lawler's stuff and run all the way to the back. And and Lawler asked me something about him. And I said, I don't know about him. And he said, Doug, did you ever look at him? And I said, not just when I was running from him, I didn't really look at him. And he said, well, you know what? He said, that shocks me because Doug, he wasn't really big or anything, but it was the way he carried himself, I think, with the stuff on and the, he always had the guys with suits on around him like he was a different character.
Yeah, well, you look at him and Abdullah, two of the scariest guys in wrestling, and they never opened their mouth on camera. There's not a promo of them anywhere. And of course, if Abdullah would have, hello, brother, you wouldn't have been scared of him if you heard that high-pitched voice, but with just that crazy look, you were scared to death. The same with the Sheik. To this day, I don't know what Ed Farhad's voice sounds like. There's not a recording of him that I know of,
That Abdullah the Butcher, he'd eat that raw chicken on TV and stuff, and me and him banked at the same bank. And anyway, them ladies in the bank, I'd come in and Abdullah done been in the bank, and they said, that Abdullah ain't as crazy as they say he is. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, he just was in here a little bit 4 years, and he had his derby hat on, then he come in with a big cigar, and he spoke better English than we do. Yeah, I popped. I said, are you sure that was Abdullah? I said, I ain't never heard him talk. You try to play it off, but yeah, you never did hear him talk though.
No.
Tommy said he was eating raw chicken last time he saw him.
Yeah, he'll eat that raw chicken till today.
He was like Mike Tyson. When you finally hear him talk, you realize why he never talked. Because man, if he'd ever cut a promo, hey Chip, how you doing? Blew this whole gimmick, man. Well, all right, guys, it's been another fun one, and we hope everybody joins us once again next week. Remember, DougGilbertPodcast.com. You can go on there. You can find the links to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you want to check this out. You can subscribe, and it'll come right to you each and every week. You don't have to come find us. We'll come to you. Right, guys?
Hey, and somebody say something about Metropolis, Illinois this weekend, Friday, Saturday. Hey, big Comic-Con, wrestling after it. I mean, it's going to be a big weekend. So if you're anywhere near it, come out and see us.
Yeah, everybody come out. Metropolis, Illinois. Me and Tommy will be there Friday night and Saturday night. Come out and see us. Hey, everybody be cool. We'll see you.
Stand up to Brian Christopher in any way at all.
Well, we'll see come Monday night. That'll be the championship match. That is not all. You guys are both involved in single matches coming up this week. And Eddie Marlin and I were talking, and Eddie said, do you have any ideas and all that sort of thing? I'll see if I can put it together. Wait.
Hold it, Dave. I bet that put you in a bad spot, didn't it? Because seeing as we've done run the Rock and Roll Express out of town, seeing as we have done run Tom Pritchard out of town, seeing as we've done run the Dirty White Boy out of town, right, Hot Stuff? That's right. We done run them out. So that kind of left you with no suggestions, huh, Dave?
Well, I did come up with a suggestion that I think someone that will be a great opponent for you, Dirty Doug Gilbert. I don't know if you've ever beaten this man. I tell you what, here's your opponent, right? Watch this videotape, and this is your opponent Monday night.
Memphis, Tennessee, Dave Brown, my man. I'm looking forward to coming back. The last time I was there, I was a mean man because I wrestled Jerry the King Lawler. But Dave Brown's wish for Tommy Rich on his 25th year of professional wrestling was please come back and wrestle Doug Gilbert. Some people say it's hot stuff and big stuff. Well, I say what it is. I'm out here with my hogs today. And what I'm saying, it don't smell too good, Doug Gilbert. Big stuff, because when I come down, it ain't going to be no pretty sight. I'm not changing a lot of things. I want to say hey to all the people in Memphis, Tennessee, because that's where I started wrestling at. I get goosebumps thinking about it. And when I first started, it was always Tommy Rich, the nice guy. When I come back, I want to come out there and shake all the kids' hands. This is for Dave Brown, 25 years of professional wrestling. A lot of respect for that man. Memphis, Tennessee, Monday night. Wildfire's fired up. I'm out here smelling that smell with them hogs. Gilbert, I hope you take a bath before you come to the Coliseum. But if you don't, Wildfire's going to go to Tennessee. Come here, that's it. Come here.
Crowd here has been chanting, Tommy, Tommy, and Wildfire, Wildfire.
No, Eddie, you know he hates me. No.
Wait, take a look. Look at the card. It's booked right here. It's right here. Dirty Doug Gilbert, the hitman, goes against Wildfire Tommy Rich at the Mid-South Coliseum Monday night. It's not all. Eddie, you've got a match coming up after that, too.
I guess.
You don't have to watch the videotape to see your opponent. Take a look at these curtains right here, and here's who you are going to be going against. Right over here, ought to be coming through the curtains right now. There he is. Well, now who's running out of here? It's the Gilberts who have just left. The superstar, Bill.
Dave, I personally got to thank you and all them nice folks in Memphis, Tennessee.
In the heart of Tennessee, born with pride, Doug and Tommy taking rings in stride. Memphis legends never backing down, wrestling warriors, they wear the crown. You scurry away, glory in their veins, fighting legends breaking chains. In the squared circle they made their name, podcast champions, it's their claim to fame. On the mic they roar, on the map they soar, dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves, Memphis wrestling raising the stage. From title belts to Hall of Fame, Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold, every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, pride, Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. In the ring or on the air, legends living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the mat they soar, dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves, Memphis wrestling raising the stage.
Christopher going against Beauty and the Beast. And we have...
the match, baby. Right here I am. I told Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, there it is. I wonder what happened.
$1,000 back, and I'd bring the belt home.
Yeah, fine. What are you doing with the belt?
Brian Christopher, 1, 2, 3, right.
Wait, now, Tommy, you know that is not true. You did not beat him 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
you
I did.
ended up stealing the belt,
I didn't
stealing
steal
the money
nothing.
away. Oh, I didn't
Stealing what?
steal anything.
Stealing the money. Let me tell you something, Lance. Out of that $1,000 Brian Christopher talking about giving all these Memphis rednecks Christmas money, there's $20 left. Me and my man, after it was over, we went down to Bill Street. We had pretty women everywhere. So Eddie Marlin, Randy Hales, Lance Russell, can't none of y'all stop us because we got $20 left.
Well, I tell you what you better do. You better be digging into deep pockets, and you better get ready to give that belt back. You did not win that match. I know it, and everybody that was there knew it.
Lance, you must not know a thing, because see, what you don't think I know is this past Thanksgiving, just a couple weeks back, Lance Russell, yourself, Eddie Marlin, Randy Hales, Jerry Lawler, Brian Christopher, and the whole crew, y'all got together and had y'all a good little Thanksgiving dinner. Well, I also hear, Lance Russell, y'all go have a big Christmas dinner at your house. See what it is? It's a mistravesty to justice. You think you can get rid of us, but what you don't see is Scott Bowden. What Scott Bowden has done, he has gone worldwide talent scouting. He's finding us 3 or 4 of the baddest men in the world. And when they get back, It's all going to come to an end. There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some beatings and torture. It's all going to be...
You guys preach this plot against you, and everybody's always against you. They ought to be against you. Steal the belt, steal the money.
Hey, hold on, Lance Russell. It's just like a famous man around here once said, this is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah. Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich. We're going to take time out. Be back with more action in just a minute.